Spirit versus Vitality was a fantastic matchup, at least from entertainment purposes. In terms of quality of CS, I'm not sure it was quite there, but man, did it deliver on the entertainment value. At times, that game was scrappy enough that it almost felt like you had Donk versus ZywOo trying to carry rounds, the rest of the team obviously filling in. And so I decided to do something a little different here. I'm not going to show as many clips. I'm just going to talk about overall takeaways because I think there's a lot to take away from this game. But before we get into it, okay, my eyes are up here, guys. My eyes are up here. I know it's a little low cut, but if I caught you peeking, you got to subscribe to more Hawker, okay? Don't objectify me. Without further ado, let's get into this because especially the decider map, but the third and, well, second map, they were both great. They were both so fun. But I think we'll get into the fact that I don't think either of these teams played that well here in terms of clean Counter-Strike. In a weird way, I think that helped, though, because I think it helped bring a little more out of ZywOo than we would normally see, and it meant that we kind of got just individuals mattering the most in this game for a lot of moments, and that's always the most fun CS to watch for a lot of people, right? I love seeing the top Counter-Strike battles of like in-game leaders and mind games, but a lot of times we are here for the players. And let's show it. We all want to see the Donk 1v5 with the Galil. It's got to be in the running for clip of the year, right? I could not believe it. Players
breathing down his neck, and there's a ton of pressure coming in on Mezzi. He lines up the bodies, though. So solid. Locks this down.
And do you know what sucks? Is that Mezzi actually has a sick clip before Donk does this. That's a great A-hold, isn't it? It's a shame it doesn't matter.
Another multi-frag moment, but here's Donk's rebuttal. Okay, over towards outer, damage onto the op. And now ZywOo slides away.
No fast moves.
Donk gets into the back of the site. This is a 1v5.
He can sense the fear. Rotation around for ZywOo. He's calculating, moving slowly, but with conviction.
Oh man, they still stay separate. This would be huge.
Is Donk gonna look for the pickoff into heaven from Hut, or is he gonna stay in squeaky? The decision he has to make.
Donk comes back. ZywOo, remember, full health over onto the AK. They're feeding Apex to him. And now this huge health advantage. Time's ticking. Donk's out. Clashes and kills them off.
Insane. And the last kill especially, the crosshair placement and the instant realization when ZywOo throws the molly to just slide out like that is so sick. And by the way, shout out to Blast. I love these over-the-shoulder POVs seeing the clip back. These are so cool to watch. I'm loving these.
All on his own, and Nuke keeps going.
Pure. You see the crosshair placement and the Donk slide at the end, the little crouch just to make sure at the end. Bro barely even reacts. Okay, my Galil doesn't work like that. Okay. But I think there is a discussion to be had here because this is what I mean. Firstly, when I say that Donk is just such a crazy cheat code. For me, he is #1 player of the year just because of how much he does by himself. And if anything, I think the next evolution of Donk at some point is probably going to have to be him almost like reining it in a little sometimes, which is going to be a shame to watch. But I love the fact that he seems so self-focused on winning rounds. He always wants to make a play. He always wants to do something. And I think that works very well on this team. But I actually think going forward, there's almost the question to me of, is Donk playing like that? Is Donk playing like this because he doesn't fully trust his teammates to win rounds and because he doesn't fully trust the calling to win rounds? Or is this just how Donk always wants to play? Right? Because if he always wants to play like this, I do think if he was on a very well-structured team that was working well, sometimes he probably would need to just sit back a bit and rely on the call and rely on his teammates to get things done. But the thing I love is the amount of times you can just tell he wants to take the game into his own hands. And when you have a player of his talent and his ability at entries, I think it's great to watch, right? It is great to watch. Now, I do want to say, I've been mentioning, I think this game, in terms of overall quality of CS, it was a little scrappy. And you don't just have to take my word for it. You can hear it from Apex himself.
Well, I think the problem is we have some good moments. We do some good rounds, but I think right now our advantage situation are a nightmare.
Sure.
We play them like really bad. The force buy as well. The way we play against force buy, we know they have 1.5k, and we still manage to take duel we shouldn't take, and we lose round we shouldn't lose. So for me, it's just going back to the basics. You know, I always said, like in my life, that if you win, okay, decent amount of pistol, you win the anti-ecos, you win the advantage situation, you're already up in the game. You're already.
So Apex himself saying they feel like they're making some mistakes and some silly mistakes in moments. And that's what made this game so fun to watch, is when you get games like that, it opens up the chance for a lot of individual moments, which we had throughout this. And even towards the end here, in this round 24, this is the round where ZywOo comes through with a huge moment to bring it to overtime. But look at what Apex is saying.
Okay.
In jungle!
Before that.
Take the bomb, guys. On jungle, we have to jungle. Je me planter, City.
I'm loco.
Unlucko indeed. Unlucko indeed.
Why we not listening to me?
Okay, my plan was I wanted to put
Basically, he said, why aren't you listening to me? I had the perfect call. And then he's going to explain what he wanted to do here.
Mezzi and Ropz to go B, and us react to the information, because it's a 5v3. We never know. We can be 3 stack, and you lose the round. Yeah. It's like that easy. But I think I repeat 2 or 3 times, but I don't think Robin heard me. So
Ropz, that is Robin, apparently didn't hear that Apex wanted to go 2 players towards B.
We go only 1B, because if they see Ropz, maybe they don't do the same.
And you can see that allows Chopper to get this free kill on Mezzi.
Still a good plan.
And then survive and realize there's not much else there, it seems.
Towards A, and yeah, we struggle to win the round. That's a bit unloco, but that's the way it is.
And this is why I think Apex was saying in the 5v3, he wanted to have those 2 players go towards the B apartments, partly to figure out if there was a stack somewhere or to see if there was a site that was clear, and partly because if Ropz was there, he might have just been able to trade, and then suddenly ZywOo might think about rotating over. Even though there was that second player on B, he might say, okay, I've got to rotate with such little time left.
These type of mistakes that you're just making too many of, because let's just be honest, I mean, you're not in the same groove that you were at your Ropz also said like something after.
I think the prime of every CS player, and you know what.
Okay, I thought he said more about it. He doesn't. But I think it's a good example of Vitality not quite being at their best, as we have seen, right? I want to get into the spirit side of things. I want to get into Donk. And this, I think, is a very good example of what I mean by, if anything, Donk is going to have to sometimes pull his game back a bit, because this is a 7-7 round. He's smoked off from short. Shiro is already saving.
This entire...
You can see on the minimap. And yeah, they have some money in the bank. And again, I love that Donk... The thing is, he is so insane that he probably just believes he can win this, right? That there is no world in which he should look at this round and say, I've got a chance. He should probably just save, right? We could all say that.
Yeah, it's still fresh. No, okay.
The smoke fades.
It's gone.
But again, Shiro is saving the orb, as makes sense.
In there, but I mean, 5 seconds.
And he still tries to go for it and gets denied.
Smooth.
And yes, this is a small thing, but we'll skip ahead and now look at the next round. They actually have an MP9 on Chopper and a FAMAS on Tanir. It is just little moments like that where you feel like Donk actually maybe should hold back just a little, right? But at the same time, I kind of almost don't want to tell him that, because I love watching him win impossible rounds. And also, more importantly, the amount of rounds he wins you just off the back of his own ability, I still think is ridiculous. Like, this is what I mean, and why I know I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, but this is what I mean when I say, when you have Donk on your team, I genuinely think he gives you such a huge advantage on T sides that you naturally are going to have a decent win rate on T sides. Like, look at this round, 4v4, he's in connector.
So early to be up here.
He's already got an opener, which I missed.
Connector alone.
Nade'll soften him up, but remember, we've got 2 ops on this play between Ropz and ZywOo at the moment.
They're trying to make it feel like a cat split. I don't know if ZywOo's going to fall for it. He might get the pick off. No, Donk took him out.
And then all of a sudden, Ropz misses an op shot. Apex is going to have to be the
And Donk just ended up getting 2 kills. I don't think this was even the round I wanted to show, but again, it's like so many rounds where... Yes, there is the call, but it's kind of like a fairly standard call, and then Donk just does something like that against ZywOo, and you're like, okay, that's made such a difference in the round, right? There's just so many moments like that. Even this one, for example, where we're going to see, you'll see ZywOo just kind of being able to play super supportively because of how much focus and attention goes onto Donk.
You tiptoe your way into Donk's proximity, you've got problems. They just were reminded of that 1 round ago. Now you're signing up for another fight. Again, you start spamming shots like this, Donk is going to come
Donk
and
fighting mid, doesn't get killed by ZywOo. That's a big moment.
take a swing at you. The frag.
Even slightly
Oh,
blind.
it's still
Somehow Donk wins
not
that.
enough.
Take over.
And then as they go back to A, I think Vitality did have a bit of a game plan to target ZywOo towards A. And honestly, ZywOo was always playing quite passive for the most part, but it kind of worked. There were a few rounds where he would play forward, and I think he was actually decent in this half.
Rearranging.
But I do think it's such a cheat code to have Donk with you, because
At
look,
least this time around,
ZywOo just sits under Palace,
it's
he
not
lets
Donk
them
to get
out,
free.
and Donk, on 18 health here,
kills. It's a good amount of damage versus
Gets
him,
a
but he
kill.
still fights on.
Yeah, he's no
and then trades off of ZywOo. That is just all Donk being ridiculous.
Goes one more.
Like, ZywOo's done fine, you know, he's done a normal play, right?
Further.
How the Donk 3K every
But it's only
single
because Donk gets
round.
this.
23 kills.
Still looks somewhat blind. Then this one, he is blind. Look at this reaction. There's a flash. I think maybe he caught a glimpse of the guy. Maybe.
The joke was he always gets 2.
And he gets it. And then look how quickly he's got to stairs to refight again while sort of being blind still.
That ZywOo has been a great.
Just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. I want to go back. Did he see a glimpse of the guy?
20.
Let's slow it down. Let's slow this one down. Let's
3
analyze.
kills.
We got drunk sounding Scoreboard, of course, because we slowed it down.
14 dead.
Oh, dude, he did. He saw the smallest glimpse of the guy and flicks over. Like, stuff like that is just ridiculous. It's just inhuman, right? And I think we do need to get into, okay, because Donk was very good. Shiro on the nuke map was incredible. But we need to get into the scoreboard overall, because I'm going to be honest, you can look at this and you can say, okay, AWP for AWP, ZywOo probably did slightly better than Shiro. ZywOo was great in this, and as I was saying, I think he was taking a little more initiative. The other question is, was ZywOo just able to position himself a little better? Because we heard Donk himself say in an interview that they lose a lot of 5v4s because they're quite predictable. I think he was basically saying they don't sell as many fakes, they don't go for as many intricate rounds. But does that allow ZywOo to maybe get easier reads and position himself well? Because we know that ZywOo likes to just let the game come to him, right? He likes to just position himself. He's not going to force it as often. But in this series, I think he did force it a bit more. And like I was saying, I think it was a very good adjustment from ZywOo. I think he's realized Vitality aren't at their best right now. They're not quite going to win just as a team on clean CS. So he does need to step up and make more plays. And I think he did, which we'll get into. But you look at the overall scoreboard. Okay, ZywOo, probably better than Shiro, I would say, in this series. But Shiro's still good. Donk, I guess you're comparing him to Ropz. He was definitely better. So, you know, that's 1 for 1. Then Flames and Taneer. I don't think Taneer has been quite as good as we would want. But I think Flames was just, you know, okay in this series by his standards. So that's about similar. Then you get Mezzi versus ZywOo. And the kills and deaths look somewhat similar. But for me, Mezzi had so much more impact than ZywOo in this series. Just 1 for 1, position for position. That was the biggest discrepancy in impact. And this is also why I quite like this round swing percentage HLTV added now. Because I do think Mezzi had a positive impact overall, and you can see his swing is the 2nd highest on Vitality, and that kind of tracks for me. I actually don't think Ropz had a crazy good series. But Mezzi has so many impact rounds compared to ZywOo, who is similar in that neither of them are getting many resources, right? We can say that, and so we can say you're not meant to get crazy amounts of kills, and you can see that Mezzi hasn't got crazy amounts of kills. But there are so many rounds on little 4-spies where Mezzi just gets a 3k and just wins you a 4-spy. That round on nuke and on A-site nuke anchoring in general, Mezzi is just so reliable. And that's something we'll get into, because on the other side, ZywOo and Chopper playing A on nuke, it felt like Spirit were having to play around that and having to help them on the A site all the time. It kind of felt like Donk and sometimes Shiro were so scared of losing that A site, they were having to reinforce it, compared to a Mezzi who is so reliable. And for ZywOo, you just don't get many of these moments at all. It kind of looks like he's always trying to just not make a mistake. That's the feeling I get with ZywOo. He's playing not to make a mistake. And I just think that that's costing Spirit a fair bit. You can't play like that. You cannot play like that. And I think that ZywOo was always a thinking player. You could see that on his previous team before he was picked up. And I wonder if this was just a step too early for him. But it feels like that was the biggest discrepancy just in terms of raw output, raw fragging. Because Apex and Chopper, Apex actually didn't have a great series fragging-wise, unfortunately. Normally, he's quite a good fragging IGL. Didn't have that today, sadly. What else have we got? What else can we talk about? Well, I want to talk about the ZywOo factor because I feel like we just got more rounds like this one.
Could also make sense, but
You're gonna get through connector with this much pressure on both sides. It's gonna be a fight.
Where ZywOo with the Galil just goes crazy.
oh, but they're ready to fight.
Finally, ZywOo finds his round. But
And then here's an example, right? This is a few rounds before ZywOo had that big moment from CT, which brought them to overtime. But here,
right this song.
especially in these moments where he has more time to think, I feel like he just overcooks slightly. Like, he makes the right decision, but he just needs a clean headshot on this first player so he can transfer to spray the body. And then suddenly, Shiro can come through the smoke, and it is a completely different round.
Oh, but they're ready to fight.
Finally, ZywOo finds his round, but,
But instead,
this song.
Oh, he's waiting for it.
ZywOo gets turned on.
look how slow that first kill was. Just slow. And then that means Shiro's coming through the smoke with people ready for him. And if he could just get a clean headshot here, I think he could have transferred onto Mezzi, and suddenly the bomb is dropped in a 2v2 with 30 seconds. Shiro can get involved. It could be a completely different round, completely different story, right? But I want to look at, again, the over-the-shoulder replay.
Oh, it's a bad miss.
Because, dude, I love these from Blast. We didn't catch the kills from ZywOo, but that's fine, because all you need to do is have one camera over the shoulder of Donk, one camera over the shoulder of ZywOo, and we're going to get the replays of them.
That entire pack of T's down
Because they're going to have the most highlights, let's be real.
the bottom of connector. We're doomed. Watch him fight out of this. And
Dude, look at that. Hey, the impressive part about that, and this is why I love seeing it from the POVs, is you can see in his sensitivity, he's having to flick a far, far way to the right. This is about as far right as it feels like he can flick on this final one, because he's full connector. He's swung around there for this kill. And then this flick here, he's near the edge of his mouse mat as he flicks for this final one. Let's slow it down. Let's slow it down.
We're doomed. Watch him fight out of this.
That final flick is so hard. To get that quickly is really impressive. And we got to see that a lot. And I was saying earlier, I wonder if ZywOo has a good matchup against Spirit, because I do think they're kind of easier to read at times. And honestly, on Nuke, you saw it a lot where I mentioned previously, I was wondering if Vitality's lack of AWP impact sometimes, because ZywOo is so good with the rifle, can kind of limit them. Because maybe you know that you're not going up against an AWP of Vitality all that often. And that changes the game completely. And I think that is the case on certain maps, but I think when he picks up the AWP, you can see the impact he can have, and why I wouldn't mind seeing him pick it up just a little more. Because it does change how the opponents have to approach you. And on Nuke, you just saw the amount of rounds where he was in the right position and he just knew what he was doing. And in what was quite a scrappy game, if he can position himself well, make up for like missed utility on the opponent's side, and just sometimes wipe the smokes, he was just everywhere on Nuke. He really was. And you can see in the numbers, 1.41 average rating against Spirit over 11 maps. And a lot of the teams he has the highest average rating against are, let's be real, teams that they're always going to be stomping. Like against Tyloo, against 3D Max, against VP. Of course he's going to farm these guys. But outside of that, there's Na'Vi up here, but that's only because that's only 2 maps played. This is 11 maps. This is a pretty significant amount of maps. To do this against Spirit, one of the top teams, I do think it shows, and these are numbers for this year, I do think it shows something I'm saying in that I do think sometimes Spirit, they don't do anything crazy strategically. They're never going to misdirect you. They're never going to confuse you. And I think that plays into ZywOo's hands pretty much perfectly, because he doesn't want to have to force the issue. He wants to just be in the right position and just maneuver you in those areas. I think it works so well against Spirit. It really does. So it seems like a good matchup for him. Now, something I will add as we get to the end of this is that I think this game tomorrow for Falcons is huge. Because, I'm sorry, if we get the quality of Counter-Strike we got here, I think that Vitality were a little weak, and I think that Falcons should feel comfortable and confident that they can beat them. And I actually think this could be a game-changing moment for Falcons, because we know Falcons as that team that the community talk about as just chokers in the big moments. They can't get it through on the big moments. This is their chance. They are against a weak-looking Vitality, or at least a weaker-looking Vitality than usual. And of course, the individuals will be there. And I expect ZywOo will continue to be a little more active. I think he's realized that the team isn't at its best right now, so he has to do a little more. And I will say, shout out to ZywOo for that. I think that's great. But if I am a Falcons team who has been slowly improving, who has been slowly looking a little more on the same page, I think they should have enough of an edge in terms of team play and just in terms of team cohesion to get this win here. If Vitality show up like they showed up there against Spirit. I really do. Because that was a very scrappy game. That came down to a lot of individual moments. And I do think that if Falcons want to prove they are a contender and a true contender for the trophy and for the major, this is where they do it. This is where they have to do it. And I think it could change their mentality. If they do win this here, then I think suddenly they'll start to realize, okay, we've beat a top team in a big playoff semi-final in front of a big crowd. I think it could change the entire mentality of the team. This could be a turning point for Falcons if they can get it done. The scary thing is, do we trust Falcons not to make silly mistakes of their own? No. Anyone who's watched Falcons knows they seem to just lose one really random, weird round that just makes no sense. Like, they'll overlook something really simple. Like, some fundamental thing will just go wrong, and then it feels like it spirals from there. I think they need to be ready for that to happen. They need to bounce back from it, and they need to show that they can compete, because this is their best opportunity. And you can actually see, I didn't realize the odds are actually favoring Falcons slightly. That shows how important this is. Because I'm sorry, if they lose this, it's hard to go into the major and not just think of them as that team that's going to struggle in the big moments, which is weird to say, because m0NESY has been so good in big moments in the past. Nico has, I know people meme on him, but he's had big games in big tournaments in the past. I know he's had certain moments that haven't looked as good, but he's had those moments. And so I think this is where they need to show us what they're capable of. And we've got to see if Kyosuke can continue to be so good in the big moments. Like, we're still figuring that out for him. Is that something he's capable of? I do want to just go back to the overall scoreboard. And the last thing I will say, I've touched on Mezzi. I think he was great. I do feel like sometimes Ropz in these sorts of games, you can really see that he prefers a game that I guess makes more sense, that is a bit more structured. And when you have a game like this, I'm not saying he was bad, but I don't think we got to see him at his best. I don't think we got to see him get into many positions where everything on the map made sense and he could put all the puzzle pieces together. And we know that that is where Ropz is at his best. So yeah, his numbers were fine, but I think you can see the swing percent, which I think this is pretty accurate. I actually feel like Mezzi had more impactful moments. I think he was fine, but if you're looking for him to be that second star, we've seen it in the past. Like, you think back to the Mouse team he was on, where he would just play within the structure of the team, and the team clearly wasn't good enough, and he would be trying to do these late round things, and he kind of couldn't, because the round had either got weird or they just lost too many players early. And that has always been one of the questions with Vitality is, if you have a team that isn't quite looking as good as a structured team and the team play isn't as good, having ZywOo and Ropz means you kind of need the early parts of rounds to go well. You need to put these guys in positions because they're not that often going to take them on by themselves. And again, I think Ropz did a little bit of that here today, but I think with ZywOo, you can see he is comfortable sometimes calling for a play and going for a play himself. I think Ropz, he'll do it occasionally, but when he does, I don't feel like he's that comfortable doing it. I feel like he wants to have a bunch of information and try to be able to outsmart his opponent before he does anything. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm saying that when the game gets a little chaotic, I think that makes him struggle, especially more compared to some other players. And there are some players that are just like that aren't going to do quite as well in these super chaotic, stressful scenarios. And sometimes I kind of feel like Ropz is maybe one of those players. I'm not saying like he had a bad series. I think he was pretty good, right? I'm just saying compared to the standards, if you're a Vitality fan, you want Ropz to be the second best player and you want to be able to rely on him in a lot of those late round positions. But as I was saying, I think the late round positions were often weird ones where there's so much going on, he can't actually calculate in time, like, what do I need to do? Where are the opponents going to be, right? That's all I'm saying. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you enjoyed less clips, more just talking general about what is going down in CS right now. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you next time.